Welcome to Franchise Killer, a podcast where we pick movie franchises or wannabe franchises, review them film by film, and see where things went wrong. All right. I'm Reese. Across me we have
David.
To his left.
Irina.
To my right. Good job.
Hans. All the names just went blank in my head.
Also known as
Noah.
Even though Bruce Lee's character is named Lee.
Yeah, and no, it's one of those things where, you know, someone like asks when you're born and you panic.
Oh, I hate that. That happened to me recently. Like, what year
90,
were you born? I was like
95.
90-something.
Yeah.
you know, like when buying alcohol, right?
That's
when you do it.
Exactly.
And slow-mo kicking a guy with a bear claw hand we have
AJ.
And the movie we're talking about tonight, it's the end of Noah's miniseries.
The end of Bruce Lee.
Which I think is more cohesive than I think Noah even thought it would be. Like, we kind of threw a bunch of movies in a blender.
There was a thought. There was a thought process, but this one I had in mind for the beginning, but none of us had seen this.
Yeah.
So we didn't fully know how well it would fit.
But the thing is, there's so many nuggets in every one of these movies that we've covered that are like, oh, that's exactly like in that other series of movies. And the movie is Enter the Dragon.
Yep.
The Bruce Lee film, 1973, directed by Robert Klaus, who also directed it. And I'm going to rattle off a list here. Probably a lot of movies we are not familiar with, but who knows. Darker Than Amber, Dreams of Glass, Black Belt Jones, Golden Needles, The Ultimate Warrior, The Amsterdam Kill, The Pack, Game of Death, The London Connection, The Big Brawl, Force 5, Deadly Eyes, Gymkata, China O'Brien 2.
Oh.
That's the next series we're covering. I'm just kidding. I don't even know what that is. And Ironheart.
Sure
he directed a lot of action
that
movies.
cheered
Looks
out
like
there.
kung fu movies, and another Bruce Lee movie. Bruce Lee's actual last movie, Game of Death. If you count like the time it actually came out, he died after this movie came out. But Game of Death was unfinished. Like, they started filming before Enter the Dragon.
This movie wasn't out yet. It was finished filming, but it hadn't come out in theaters yet.
Yeah, but the Game of Death was actually like started before this movie and ended after. And they had to do like a kind of Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus thing, like with Heath Ledger, where they had to like slot in other actors to portray him to fill in like those missing roles. But we'll get into more of that later. The movie stars Bruce Lee, the one and only, John Saxon, Jim Kelly, Anna Capri, Bob Wall, and Shi Kine. Probably said that wrong, as usual, but I'm just going to plow ahead here. And we got a screenplay by Michael Allen. Bruce Lee. This is the first time we're talking about a Bruce Lee movie. Might be the only time. We'll see. I haven't actually done any research into if there's any franchise potential with any of his other films. So this could be a one and done for the legend Bruce Lee. All right. For those that are new to this show, on this podcast, we first go over our thoughts on the film before revisiting it for the episode. Then we dive into the story, break it down bit by bit, and talk about the more significant moments. Then towards the end of the show, we give our brief reviews and numbered scores, along with an analysis on the health of the franchise and whether or not this film hurt it. So, Noah, had you seen Enter the Dragon before this episode?
Well, I guess I said this a moment ago, but I'll answer it again.
Yes, you will.
No, I have not.
Because we follow the format here on this show.
Yeah. Structure. Discipline.
Did you have any anecdotes to that, or just did not see it?
I had not seen it. I think the only time I've only ever heard of it. It's just, you know, Bruce Lee is infamous and
Infamous? I think just famous.
He's very, very.
He's just famous.
He's infamous to a group of people we don't know.
I get, yeah.
He's infamous to some stunt people.
Yeah,
I'll say that.
Yeah. Okay, I should more say, like, he's huge.
Yeah.
People know him, and they talk about him, and they know him for one thing: fighting. Mm-hmm.
He is a part of our culture, and therefore we will hear about him at some point in our life.
Exactly.
AJ, how about you?
Yeah, I had. kind of surprised you guys haven't, but I mean, there's distinct memories of like the whole prosthetic limb kind of thing and the final showdown on the island. And you got of course, the high pitched whiny voices of Jay Baruchel. So
Jay Baruchel. Hold on.
Prosthetic. How to Train Your
Dragon?
yeah.
He had a prosthetic leg.
Yeah, he said yes.
What?
Why? So far off.
Dragons. That's the
Oh,
connection.
dragon. That's right. Bruce Lee is the dragon. Yes.
Well, yeah, sorry. It sounds like you did watch the wrong movie for the, 115th time. So just try to follow along. No, but really, Enter the
really,
Dragon.
yeah.
Had you seen it?
Yes, I had. I've got kind of a tucked away a trove of, I don't even want to say kung fu, but wuxia martial arts movies that I've went through a phase and tucked in my repertoire, I guess.
Yeah, I'm more used to the wuxia style action, the
Flying through
flying
the air.
on air and
Strings.
that type of stuff. And it's been a big blind spot for me, the kung fu genre, the early kung fu genre of the 70s. And so I'm kind of right there with you. I guess I'll kind of draft off what you just said. I had also not seen Enter the Dragon, but it's been on my list of shame for a very long time. So when Noah assigned it, I was like, yes, we must talk about this. And there was at one point, Noah was thinking about taking it off the list and going in a different direction. And I was like, no, yeah, no.
The reason being, I just didn't know if it was gonna fit. In my head, it the only way that it was going to fit, if it were to fit, was before Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I know.
As a precursor, and I was worried about the streamlined nature as much as I really wanted to watch it.
Yeah.
But here we are, covering it.
Yeah, so I had not seen it. Very glad to take the plunge and finally watch it. David, how about you?
No, haven't seen it. I never really grew up with the Kung Fu movies. I feel like I always got this one confused with The Way of the Dragon, which is a movie that came out a year before with Chuck Norris. That's the one I always heard about. So I thought that was bigger than this one, and apparently that is not the case.
That's pretty big still.
I was pretty excited for this one.
Yeah. Arena?
No, haven't seen it before. I almost have this suspicion that it's been played in my presence, because I do have memories of watching sort of scenes or clips from martial arts films, but I don't think any of this was really memorable, or not memorable, but nothing triggered any memories for me. So, except for, there are certain stances Bruce Lee takes where I've definitely seen posters of that exact frame before, hanging up in people's rooms.
There's some GIFs of this that come up every now and again. Actually, your sister texted me a GIF of this movie earlier. I was like,
oh, yeah.
That's funny you use that. This is going to be
We're
on our
just about
podcast.
to talk about it.
Yeah, my hindsight relationship with this movie is that now I know why our uncle had those nunchucks in his
Yeah.
room. Like,
So
I might buy my own.
I have this unfortunate, I guess it's sort of a trend for some reason, but just like I had never seen Top Gun before I saw Hot Shots, I had never seen this before I saw Kung Pao.
yeah,
And so-
all the parodies of
Yeah,
this.
so Kung
Or
Pao
Mortal
is
Kombat, for that measure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Kung Pao was like, if you watch it, it's really just pulling from this movie and making fun of all of it. Like his outfits are almost exactly the same, and
Yeah.
also just other films like that in that genre.
The influence is so obvious.
Yeah.
Like this, it calls to mind like similar to when we watched Fistful of Dollars, where it's just
Right.
like,
Oh, this is what
Yeah,
everything's
exactly.
referring to.
yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. It's
It does really feel like it opens up a whole quadrant of your cinema brain where
Yeah.
you're like, oh, okay, I can explore
yeah,
this
exactly.
genre
That's
now.
been unlocked.
Yeah. So I feel I was actually going to bring up Fistful of Dollars as well, because now that I've seen this, I'm finally ready to watch martial arts films. And
Yeah.
I've been itching for Ip Man.
Oh,
yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
man, I could totally go for that.
Yeah.
So, but before it just never felt like, both with Fistful of Dollars representing a lot of westerns and spaghetti westerns, I would see movies like this and I would hear people talk about them, but I never felt like I belonged in that category, I guess. But
Yeah.
no, Yeah.
Well,
But now you can see
that's-
that, yeah, it's that gateway drug, I guess.
It's good to hear because I kind of have a lineup ready to plug into a series.
Oh,
maybe.
perfect. I'm excited.
Awesome.
Well, something else I learned was that this is apparently regarded as one of the, if not the best kung fu movie of all time. Which it's weird. It's only until you start researching and watching it, you're like, yeah, I get that. Like this is what influenced everything else. But how do you not hear about that beforehand? I mean,
Yeah.
at least I didn't.
All right, with that said, David, do you want to give us that call to action?
Yes, I do. Imagine this podcast is like water. I gotta look at my phone. This podcast is water, and empty your water. Be formless, shapeless. You put your podcast into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put your podcast into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put your podcast into a teacup, it becomes the teacup. Now flow your podcast, or crash your podcast.
I don't think he says that.
He says now water can flow or it can crash.
Oh, okay.
Be water, my friend. Be the podcast. We are
Is
the
this
podcast.
ASMR or
Listen
what?
to our podcast, please.
5 stars.
5 stars on Apple.
Yeah, give us that 5 stars on Apple, the thing that David normally says. That always helps us.
I forgot that I did it this week.
So,
It's-
are you saying that when they listen to the podcast, they become the podcast?
they're joining us.
or
They're
we-
a part of it with us.
or we
They're one
become
with
them.
the podcast.
yeah. They are
Think
part of
it-
our friend group.
Think of it as a river flowing into an ocean.
Yeah. We are the ocean. They are the river. They're
Yes.
coming into us.
Yeah. Our audience is always with us.
Yep. All right. Yeah, just give us that 5 stars on Apple if you like what you hear. Even if you don't like what you hear, if you just want to be nice, give us that 5 stars.
Share it with your mom.
You can also find some of our episodes on YouTube. We're not fully up to date there, but if that's your preferred format, we got a good backlog there. We have an Instagram and a Twitter if you want to follow us on the social medias. Yeah. David, you want to keep going? And I keep throwing curveballs at you,
I'll bring it up.
but do you want to give us that story portion?
Yeah.
Roper, Williams, and Lee, the Deadly Three, penetrate the secret chambers of an evil island empire.
What do you know about Han? He lives like a king on that island, totally self-sufficient.
A fortress without walls, protected by an invincible army that needs no ordinary weapons. This is Enter the Dragon, the first martial arts film produced by a major Hollywood studio. John Saxon is Roper. He was in it for the money. U.S. karate champion Jim Kelly as Williams. He was there because he had no choice. Black Belt Hall of Fame undisputed martial arts champion and international film star Bruce Lee. His job was to get them out alive.
I'm hoping you'll join us, represent us in the United States. You want me to join this?
Roper, Williams, and Lee. Just when they think they've broken the secret of the island, they find there is no escape from the inscrutable Han. Warner Brothers presents Enter the Dragon, where the world's greatest martial arts athletes meet the ultimate challenge with the most ancient and deadly of weapons, the human body. Enter the Dragon from Warner Brothers.
Lee, a highly proficient martial artist and instructor from Hong Kong, is approached by Braithwaite, a British intelligence agent investigating the suspected crime lord named Han. Lee is persuaded to attend a high-profile martial arts tournament on Han's private island to gather evidence that will prove Han's involvement in drug trafficking and prostitution. Shortly before his departure, Lee also learns that the man responsible for his sister's death, O'Hara, is working as Han's bodyguard on the island. Also fighting in the competition are Roper, an indebted gambling addict, and fellow Vietnam War veteran Williams. At the end of the first day, Han gives strict orders to the competitors not to leave their rooms. Lee makes contact with undercover operative Mei Ling and sneaks into Han's underground compound looking for evidence. He is discovered by several guards but manages to escape. The next morning, Han orders his giant enforcer Bolo to kill the guards in public for failing in their duties. After the execution, the competition resumes with Lee facing O'Hara. Lee beats O'Hara in humiliating fashion, then kills him after he attacks Lee with a pair of broken bottles. Han abruptly ends the day's competition after stating that O'Hara's treachery has disgraced them. Afterwards, Han confronts Williams, who had also left his room the previous night to exercise. Han believes Williams to have knowledge of the intruder, and after a destructive brawl, beats Williams to death with his iron prosthetic hand. Han then reveals his drug operation to Roper, hoping that he will join his organization. He also implicitly threatens to imprison Roper, along with all of his martial artists who joined Han's tournament in the past, if Roper will not join his operation. Despite being initially intrigued, Roper refuses after learning Williams' fate.
Let's see
Wow, that was
how many of
dismissive.
y'all, during watching this, and even just in the initial setup, were like, wow, this is Mortal Kombat smashed together with James Bond.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
early James
Well,
Bond.
Definitely.
it gives the early James Bond in the beginning. You hear that sort of music that is reminiscent of either Bond or Mission Impossible.
Then the boat ride over to the
Well, with that-
mysterious
that's very
island
Mortal
with
Kombat.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The introduction of the three main characters who all kind of resemble
Cage.
characters from Mortal
Somehow
Kombat.
end up on a boat on an island to a competition.
Yeah, like Roper is literally Johnny Cage.
Yeah.
Like, that
Yeah,
is.
he is.
It's just almost a 1-for-1.
Yeah, they're like the slight differences in that Johnny Cage is kind of dumb, and Roper isn't dumb. He's actually pretty cunning.
But he's that guy. He's like carrying all
Yes.
15 suitcases with
Yeah.
him on the trip. He's just.
He's
he
like
likes
the-
to look
the hot
good.
shot,
He's like
the
the
rich
movie
guy.
star. He's the movie
Yep.
star.
He's a personality.
And also, you have your typical British dude who's like, here's the mission. This is what's happening on this island that's kind of bordering our safe region zone. And also, there's this whole area that we can't access where the maniacal villain lives.
So before even all that, what I like about this movie and how they start is they give you what you want to see first. It shows Bruce Lee fighting. You know, it's that opening scene where he's at the temple training with his sparring partner. You have all these Shaolin monks around, and you're like, this is what I came for.
That's funny because, like, that first scene, being new to it, I was like, uh-oh. Is this
Yeah.
going to be another...
That was me as well.
Like, uh-oh. Like, with the voiceover of his master...
the
who does,
voiceover's
like,
not so good.
It was
Right.
very...
just of him in particular.
That leads to a good like framing question is for everyone here, and you know, that is maybe less well versed in kung fu and stuff. And how does this meet your expectations? Did you expect the spy element of it? Does this, you know, kind of fall right in line with the stereotypical poor dubbing, or I don't know, like what are you expecting going into this movie?
Yes and
So
yes.
so for that, speaking on the dubbing, I think they did a really good job, except for his master.
Yeah, agreed.
His master is the only one in this entire movie that is poorly dubbed.
Yeah, and for a movie that was completely shot silently and everything was
Yeah.
dubbed
ADR,
in...
right?
ADR, yeah. Pretty good. Like,
But as far as the other things go,
The kung fu.
right off the bat, I'm like, this is what I'm expecting. This is what I like. But once it moved over to kind of a spy portion, I was thinking, wow, this is way different from what I expected, but in a positive way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's more nuanced than the standard, you know, than Mortal Kombat, where it's just
Show up, kick ass.
Yeah, and it is that. It is that too, but there's more to it.
I think also it wasn't what I expected in the manner of the protagonist, where
Yes.
usually as a stereotype, I expect the protagonist to be, oh yeah, you know, I'm fighting for honor, or you know, I'm in a way he is sort of avenging, I guess, his sister. It was his sister, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I love the attitude of he really doesn't seem to care except about his own objective, really. Like I love his kind of like stony faced
Yep.
approach to everything. How it's sort of a why should I care kind of a thing
Yeah.
until, you know, someone brings up something for him to care about.
And also
really.
Bruce Lee's personality showing up in that character where it's like he knows he's better in real life and in this movie where, you know,
Right.
people don't
Yep.
he's not afraid of anything.
He has an edge, whereas I kind of expect martial arts films to be kind of, I don't know,
There's a little bit of goof to him.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think this is strangely very grounded in the way everything is done, coming down to choreography and the plot, where the stereotypical martial arts film I think of, everything feels fanciful.
If you're
And
not,
this actually doesn't really feel much like a fantasy.
yeah, if you're not, I don't know, acclimated, maybe a good word, to the kung fu genre,
Exactly.
the stereotypical approach, you kind of dismiss it as cheesy or whatever, because it blends in with the parody that we've all seen. And I think this movie in particular has an uphill battle going into it to overcome that stereotype.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The parody being, and as much as I enjoy these movies, but it's a lot of the Jet Li type movies where, you're doing the bicycle kicks, you're floating in the air.
Right.
Yet he's
Yeah.
playing
We spoke
football.
about this earlier. It's that kind of martial arts movie
Yeah.
that, while enjoyable to a certain crowd, there's a lot of suspension of disbelief when you're watching those.
Or
Whereas-
yet he's playing football, Jet Li.
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yet he's
Just
playing
like that.
Different kind of Jet
he's
Li, yeah.
playing football. Yes, yeah, forgot about that.
David gave
But-
Tomb of the Dragon Emperor a 7.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Facts.
But this has real choreography. They all technically have choreography,
But like
this
legit
one,
martial arts choreography done by Bruce Lee.
martial artists,
Which is funny.
fighting each other.
Bruce Lee on the script, if you watch some of the behind the scenes, they showed the script, and whenever there was a fight scene that was a big fight scene with Bruce Lee, it just said in parentheses, Bruce Lee to determine later.
Yeah.
And it's just like he figured out the fighting scenes kind of like in the moment.
So,
love
so
that.
can I get a criticism out of the way real quick so we can be positive?
Okay.
I do
Yes.
have one criticism, and it's something.
I do as well.
Yeah, it is around these fight scenes, which I think are, for the most part, amazingly choreographed. The choreography is not my problem. I have a problem when it zooms, not the zoom, when it is cutting close, or the shot is close up, and he's doing moves that you can't see. Like, I don't like it. Like, you can show Bruce Lee doing the moves, because he can clearly do them.
Yep.
This is something that it still plagues certain movies today. It's this quick cutting thing where
They see like half of their arm and then their foot kind of fly in the frame.
yeah,
You're
well,
like, I don't see any.
Well,
of
it's also
this.
people thinking that the audience is going to be bored if you're not constantly like doing weird stuff with the camera. Like it's no, we've seen John Wick. We've seen these long takes of him just taking out dudes, and it's like 5 minutes of just watching him do this. Like that's what the people want. And this one kind of suffers a little bit. And I know it's 70s, so I'll give it some credit. But there's other movies around this time that. Jackie Chan movies, for instance, where you see the full breadth.
Okay, that
of-
was more 80s though.
okay, but still, what I'm saying is like you see the full breadth of what he's doing, and the movie loses nothing from that. In fact, it enhances it.
I do kind of wonder sometimes, though, if at this time building up Bruce Lee as an icon, it's more about his image almost,
Yeah.
like close-ups of him doing this.
Yeah.
Like this is his face.
Yeah.
There are especially moments where I did appreciate a close-up because he does this thing when he is fighting a group where he's not
so
looking at
good.
anyone directly. He's
Yeah.
kind of looking down and allowing his peripherals to show him where all the movement is coming from.
Yeah, I like that.
So I
So
think it's
cool.
cool to pick up on details like that you might miss if the camera were just showcasing the entire event.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know what you're talking about too. I would love to see like the full
Yeah.
choreography.
And to its credit, this is not even close to the worst offender of that. Like, there's plenty of shots where you see like him really performing all the moves, and you can see like arms and legs. They're all
Yeah.
in the frame, and you can see him.
They do
just
wide angle
moving.
shots on this too.
Yeah,
yeah.
they
Reese
do.
is just throwing some form
Well,
of criticism.
There are valid points there that some of that stems from this being the first Hollywood production of Bruce Lee
and even
and-
then, it was mixed with production
for the
from
genre,
China.
and so it's a co-production with
Yeah.
the Hong Kong studio. So some of those elements there's a give and take, and there was somewhat of a plague production.
Yeah.
with, many shots and takes, but some of that style is imparted So you have a blend here between the the Western Hollywood and the Eastern Hong Kong style. So, and I feel like other than some of those small points, it blends pretty well.
Yeah.
I would say that for me, I was just enjoying my time. I didn't really think about it.
Yeah, and my criticisms are negligible.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
actually
yeah.
think it's great.
I do have one other criticism though, since we're getting them out of the way, and it's the kind of subplot of revenge of his sister that is not fully fleshed out. It's he's just introduced to the situation. Here, you're on a mission. Oh, after that, he meets, I guess, his master or someone above him, and that guy's like, by the way, your sister was attacked by this guy on the island.
O'Hara, yeah.
After he had already accepted the mission.
It's
to
really
go
kind of
there.
shoehorned in there.
And then it shows this this kind of strange fight scene that's not very well acted out.
Yeah.
The bottle scene?
No, that
No.
so that's the thing about-
with his sister.
Oh, with the
The
sister.
chase.
Oh,
Yeah.
fine.
Bruce Lee is such a confident action star, and his confidence like bleeds off the screen. But you're right. I kind of did forget at one point that I was like, oh, this is kind of a revenge story. Like that kind of is kaput after he kills that one guy.
Yeah.
And then it just, I guess I'm on the island, so I'll see this thing through.
So that's my that's my only real criticism is it's just that if they were to do that, have it be a little more fleshed out.
Well, the flip side of that too is it's not what we're used to, and this was kind of, I don't want to say groundbreaking, but influential in
Right.
the diversity and inclusion of, you have black actors and characters, Asians, Asian Americans, and then women. So you have all these kind of confluence of, less than represented peoples here. But so with his sister, that kind of subplot, it didn't really flesh out as much as we would hope. But it's kind of cool that at the time they pushed that angle, and there was still some strength to that, that character herself.
And
I
it
can agree
does,
with that.
and it does add to what I do think it surfaces the plot in is that Bruce Lee, or Lee in this case in the movie, is not a character you would believe would have any interest in a tournament. So you throw that little angle in there, that's what gets him to the island.
Right.
So from a plot standpoint, it makes
It's
sense.
the catalyst. It gets him there.
And
But my problem is though that wasn't the catalyst. He had first had a mission briefing with that guy who was like, by the way, we need you on this island.
Okay,
to
it's supposed to
check out."
emotionally connect him,
Yeah.
catalyst-wise. He's supposed to be emotionally more invested in the whole thing.
I'll also
So, yeah,
say
the
he did
motivation
show some
isn't-
disinterest in this thing before that.
I get where Noah's coming from. The motivation standpoint that doesn't really push you along as so much as the action itself.
Yeah.
So I would just have it be either out, not in there, or fleshed out more. And I would not want to pick apart the movie at all, though, because what we have is very excellent. That's just my minor criticism. Is that.
I will say this movie makes me more angry at Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
Because
They
I'm
did
like-
this in the 70s.
well, the thing is, it's such a simple plot, and yet Mortal Kombat feels like its setup of that plot is so discombobulated, and it's like, wow, you guys actually had a blueprint that you've followed to a T, but couldn't convey properly. Like it's the same because Liu Kang in Mortal Kombat, in this case, it's his brother who dies or is killed by Shao Kahn. And
Whatever that
then a
guy's
bunch of warriors are assembled, and they jump on a boat, and they go to an island, and they all fight. But in that movie, it's just the plotting of it is not clear in a way that this one is. And I'm like, oh, this is how. Like when I watched this, it was kind of a revelation. I'm like, oh, this is how you do it. And also, Mortal Kombat. Sorry, cult followers of that movie, kind of sucks compared to this. I still enjoy it for whatever reason, but it's not a.
I'll always enjoy it still.
But it's not a good movie.
It is comparatively not good.
Like this is that movie. Like
it's the same movie.
yeah.
Well,
in concept, like
There's
the
a-
bones of the movie.
Yeah, there's
Set people
a
with elemental
framework
powers.
that Mortal Kombat was derived from, and that is this.
Yeah, and just the way that Mortal Kombat sets up the battles is nonsensical, whereas it's so like it makes sense in this one and
Yes.
it's streamlined. Those movies are the
Yep.
same length
It's
too.
so
They had the
good.
same amount of time to lay the track for this.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I think something that also grounds this movie is setting the background, the scenery, the setting. You know, as even on the island, as Han goes and gives this tour of this underbelly of, you know, his crime and the opioid operation, you have these people locked up and you see the ugly side of things as opposed to just this kind of scary bad guy. Like there's kind of, you know, there's not a greatest motivation for revenge, but you actually don't like this guy for very good reasons.
Yeah.
And the movie
Yeah.
does a great job of establishing this real world aspect to it, even though you have this kind of, I don't know, fluffy kung fu stylistic action on top of it. And even so
Yeah.
far as I think there might have been more logistical reasons why this happened, but I think some of the prostitutes in the movie were actual prostitutes.
Yeah.
And the guys
Probably
locked up-
cheaper.
yeah, the guys locked up were, you know, that were beating up homeless people were actual homeless people. So there's that real world aspect to it that really lends its character to, I guess, a texture of the movie.
Yeah.
Well, we're not doing this inside of a studio set in California, which I think is one of the biggest things too. I mean, getting to actually see, you know, an island off of Hong Kong is pretty cool.
Yeah. And credit to this movie. This island feels more dangerous than, and sorry to throw Mortal Kombat under the bus again, where there's literal fatalities in front of people's eyes that are supposed to be more brutal than this. But this island to me feels more dangerous and seedy and like,
Like you can't trust.
yeah, and
anyone
more
there.
tactile and just, yeah.
It's James Bond. It feels like you're on a James Bond island. You're like, yep, nothing's safe.
Yeah, so let's talk about the big three, the cast here, real quick, just to kind of get them out of the way. We talked a little bit about Bruce Lee, but Bruce Lee's lead in this movie, and it's almost co-starring
John Saxon.
John Saxon. Interesting fact about this movie that they were uncertain of Bruce Lee's viability in the U.S., so they positioned John Saxon's Roper character as like an option to also be the protagonist if they decided like, oh no, I don't think Bruce Lee can, you know.
And to
Carry
clarify
this
even more,
film.
it was not about carrying the film. It was about him being Asian specifically. They were
Yeah.
like, we've never had an Asian lead actor before. We all know Bruce Lee's big, but like, no one's done it before. We don't know how the U.S. is gonna respond to it.
And the magic of this movie is it should be a disaster of like, oh, who's the protagonist? But no, you know, this movie gets to have its cake and eat it too, because Bruce Lee is clearly
Obviously.
the protagonist.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, I like this John Saxon guy.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
Roper a lot.
Roper's
like,
cool.
I like his arc as well, and I kind of like that they, at the end, they do the thumbs up and they're like buddies, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I want to see these guys go
I
on.
think the movie actually really benefits from him being kind of a side supporting
Yes.
character. And
Yeah.
I do love the amount that you get to know about him and his relation with the people around him.
Yeah.
But it's definitely helpful because he adds character and personality where Bruce Lee has his own kind of personality, but
Yeah.
he shines in this Lee character by keeping his cards close and doing exactly what he intends to do in every single
Well, I
part
mean,
of the film.
going back to
Go ahead.
But going back to Fistful of Dollars, like Bruce Lee is literally the man with no name in
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
essentially, where he's
That
not,
is a good comparison.
not
Yeah.
much personality, but he has this charisma,
Yeah.
and he has this
Well,
confidence.
also this look in his eye where
Yeah.
you're like,
No
you
one's
are
gonna kill
very,
him.
Yeah, he's very
Yeah.
aware of his surroundings all the time.
Yeah, and then you have your color characters that complement him. Like you go to, for a few dollars more, you have Van Cleef's character, who's like, oh, this guy's cool, but only because he's bounced off of the man with no name, or
They play off of each other. Clint
Yeah, it's-
Eastwood.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think this movie has that same kind of magic to it in a way.
Well, and not to mention the third person we were talking about, which is Jim Kelly playing Williams, who apparently wasn't even going to be in the movie because they had someone else cast for that role. Williams being the black guy with the afro, super jacked. He originally wasn't in this. It was somebody else. And then last second, 2 days before shooting, I believe, they were at a karate studio or something, and they saw him, and they're like, do you want to be in this film? And he's like, sure. Next thing you knew.
Yeah. Y'all remember that game Afro Samurai?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would bet that they like almost entirely based that character on this guy.
Well, and so Jim Kelly is just awesome in
Yeah.
this, I think. He also has a lot of charisma. I think they lucked out, honestly, getting him in this movie.
He's great. This is one of the things I love about this movie is the way they kind of change perspectives with each character and how, you know, they all have their kind of unique personality and they're different too. They have this aspect about them that you just like. It's lighthearted, even if, you know, they're doing a not great thing, like, you know, rigging a match for money or, you know, sleeping around with a bunch of girls, like in one room
To each their own.
which is not, you know, we're not going to say that's a good or bad thing, but essentially they all have their own vices, but you enjoy their characters. And the kind of spice they bring to the movie is nice, and it adds a good, you know, what's the word, contrast to
camaraderie among
Bruce Lee's character.
The cool thing about these three, Lee, Roper, and what's the character's name? Williams. Is it shows three completely different perspectives on three different people and how they got to this island. So Lee, he's technically undercover and coming into this island.
Secret agent,
Roper is almost kind of a prime candidate for, you know, the
Han.
Yeah,
needs
I
to
almost
make
said
some money.
Khan.
He seems like the character that they're fattening up for the kill.
Exactly.
Yep. Like,
and then Williams, he's just also invited for this thing, but he's a little bit oblivious. Whereas Roper, he's someone that acts like, oh yeah, I'm just enjoying my time, whatever. But he's actually a lot more aware than he conveys himself to be. So I love the scene in the banquet where he does go to Lee and kind of talks to him. And, you know, he pretends like, oh yeah, you know, just...
It's nice. I like it here.
It's nice. I'm just nervous about the water or whatever. Kind of trying to feel out who Lee is a little bit. And then he goes over to Williams, which I think there was like a previous friendship between them.
Yeah, they both fought in their veterans.
And it's almost like he completely changes and he says, like, something's up here. I think we're being fattened for the kill kind of a thing.
And can I say just such economic storytelling here where you have these brief flashbacks. Yeah, they're a bit awkward, but it also like tells you everything you need to know in such a short span of time.
Yeah.
Like I normally hate flashbacks, but they're so brief and they just like add that extra little like, oh, okay, this is who these guys are. And then in their interaction you were talking about, I'm like, oh, okay, they're friends. And that's all you need to know. There's other movies that just drag this out longer than is necessary. And this one's just like, no, get right to the point. These guys know each other. Here's how they got here. They're all like in kind of dire straits, so they all have to be at this tournament. And they give Bruce Lee the most setup to actually like get there. And the other ones, they at least give them a little bit instead of just showing them on the island like, oh, hi, here I am.
I'm also here.
Yeah, and speaking to your point about, like, you know, Roper talking to Lee about that scene in particular is really cool because Roper, who seems the one that would think nothing of it and would be eating the food or wanted to eat the food, whatever, is the one that's hesitant to do so because he's worried. But then you go over to Lee and he's like snacking on the grapes or whatever, and you know that he's just that confident in himself that like this is fine.
He's such a cool character.
Yeah,
and Irina, did
it's
we
really cool.
interrupt you? I feel like I interrupted you. Did you have more to say?
No. I was just wanting to talk about this dynamic and how you, through three characters, like are kind of fleshing out this scenario, and it's just enjoyable to see them interact. Like,
Yeah.
particularly through Roper. He's the
Yeah.
one that connects the other two characters.
He's the
really.
bridge.
Yeah, and I could have actually used more of this middle section. More like maybe maybe one more fight, one more tournament before the plot decides to move forward. I was kind of enjoying the prospect of seeing these kind of fights where they didn't expect it really to be fight to the death, and then they realized that he just killed a guy in front of me. Could you use maybe a little more of that? I don't know how y'all felt.
No, I could too. I think there could be a little fleshing out in there, but otherwise the pacing is actually pretty good.
It's very good.
Yeah.
It's really easy to sit and watch the whole thing.
Yeah, especially, and I feel like I kind of find it a trick, or I don't know. There are certain movies where I challenge people to watch on mute as much as possible after watching, the first time. This is one of them, especially, the really well choreographed scenes, the iconic fight scenes, when he's down underground infiltrating, fighting the guards. And I mean, just watching Bruce Lee in action go from this James Bond kind of character to just immediately and seamlessly transition into the master of his element. It's just amazing. And some of those shots that are, I guess, kind of cheesy otherwise, you can see the direction, the artistry of it.
Yeah.
And the, I don't know. Lee himself is more than just a martial artist. He's a philosopher, a dramatist. And I don't know. This is definitely a movie that I tell people to watch on silent as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, in addition to that, with the action scenes, those zoom ins that you associate directly with like 70s, 80s action, where it's almost like cheesy when it's zooming in on his face as he's just like snapped someone's neck or something. It works in this movie. Like
it's perfect.
Like
It
at first you're like,
conveys
that's of that
energy.
time. But no, if you have the right intensity and the right performance in front of a scene like that, you can make any shot like that just work. And in this case, those zoom ins that you never see today are like, wow, that's adding to it in a weird way. I'm like, I like that. Because you're watching someone who's magnetic and the camera is just pulled in on him. Like it just can't resist moving in to capture that. Like it's... And that's why,
what they're capturing is like this raw emotion, and it's more cinematic than a lot of things you would expect to be cinematic.
Yeah.
On the converse side of what I just said, opposite of watching the movie on mute, I feel like a very underrated composer, Lalo Schifrin here, he did the theme from Mission Impossible, but he went on from this. I mean, it's understated, but it's so powerful and conveying those emotions as well, adding that layer. So I feel like his music in this is kind of overlooked, but clearly there's a talent and artistry that he's been recognized for in his later works as well.
I think Bruce Lee even recognized him for his work on Mission Impossible and even stated that he practiced to some of that music, which I thought was really cool.
And then
It's
it goes
funny
on to
because
like
it actually
Dirty
weirdly
Harry
does
and all that stuff.
perfectly
Cool Hand
capture
Luke.
kung fu plus espionage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The music in this, where it's...
Well, you have the Clint Eastwood connection too, because he went on to do like Dirty Harry and Cool Hand Luke.
Oh, really?
The whole Dirty Harry series,
I mean, that kind of makes sense with the buddy cop. Not buddy cop, but
What are you
like
talking about?
those. I mean, he's a
Rogue
cop
cop.
in that. He's on mission. I mean, he's a detective.
There's overlap, yeah.
Have you seen any of the Dirty Harrys? Didn't think so.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about Mortal Kombat.
There's overlap. Yeah. He's trying to make me look bad.
I totally see it. The funny thing is I have seen them.
Oh yeah, that is the funny thing.
Not that Deadpool, the other Deadpool.
That's what when we finally watch Dirty Harry, I know what you're gonna watch. Whoops.
Called you out.
Something else dirty.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to bring up how do you, since we've talked about kind of the main characters and we'll probably talk about them more. Now what do you guys think of the villain?
Shao Kahn?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean,
Han?
his name
Han
is
shot
basically
first.
the same in Mortal Kombat. Like, it's like, ridiculous.
He goes by Han.
It's Kain or something like that. Like, it's no,
It's
he's
close.
he is a Bond villain. He has a freaking like
Dr.
Metal
No.
hand.
metal hand where he adds like goofy attachments to it, and he has a underground lair where he sacrifices people, and
Drugs up females on
Yeah,
and gets them dependent. And
there's
then,
drugs, and he has a prison full of drunk people.
Still don't
were
get that
arrested.
part, but
No, they're like undesirables, basically.
I know. But he's like,
You can
I
do
don't
what
like
want
you. We're
with-
gonna just store you down here.
I love that we have this like Indiana Jones, like let them all out and run, like it's like a Temple of Doom scene almost, where it's like, oh, let them all out and they'll run and overcome the bad guys. But yeah, he's a Bond villain. That's all I have to say.
It's interesting. My thoughts on this, probably controversial, maybe not so controversial. I don't know. But imagine you're watching an old school James Bond movie, and then James Bond can actually fight. That's this.
I actually
Yeah.
feel like they throw. I don't know if they're actually throwing shade, but it kind of felt like they were throwing shade at James Bond in the
Yeah.
beginning of this movie, where they're like, anyone can shoot a gun, and I was like, because he's like, oh, why doesn't someone just kill Han on the island with like a
blow him away
45?
with a
And he's like,
45.
well, anyone can shoot a gun, but he won't allow guns. You have to do it with your fists.
No guns in this jurisdiction.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of cool that they set it up where like, nope, no guns. You're doing this with your own skills.
Yeah, because that's always been my problem with the James Bond movies is they never, make me really believe he could do what he does.
Can I offer
Although-
I kind of didn't like that scene.
Which one?
The gun scene where he's like asks about guns.
I kind of liked it.
I wanted it to be a thing where the British people or the British dudes like, okay, so we have this part of the island. We'll give you a gun here if you need it for an emergency. And I wanted Bruce Lee to be like, I don't use guns. Like, I don't need them.
I think they did a good job because otherwise, like, how would you sneak a gun where they're giving you the clothes to wear? I don't know. I think that it made sense.
Right.
They wanted to prove that Bruce Lee didn't need guns. There was no guns going to be happening.
I just couldn't picture Lee holding a gun in this movie.
And he didn't.
No, but he would have been open to it.
Oh,
Like,
he
I
had
could
two
not
guns
see-
on his arms, though. He was
That's
wielding
true.
2 guns the whole time.
Yeah, that's true. So let's talk about the fight between Lee and Scarface guy. So we
Kano.
figure out
O'Hara.
that the Scarface guy was directly associated
O'Hara.
with the death of his sister, and they are set to have a fight.
Beautiful.
Yeah, this is one of those scenes where other filmmakers don't get it, but there's a time where you just need the main character to whoop a guy's ass.
Just
with like
annihilate them.
yeah, with like nothing. And to call it back to John Wick, sorry, I keep calling back to this movie. That's a movie that knows how to be a awesome
Yeah.
action movie. Just let you can show him struggle every now and then, but sometimes it's just fun to watch a guy wreck shop
Well, it
on
proves
someone.
the
yeah.
fact that they are the greatest. You
Yeah.
know, if you watch One Punch Man, would it be fun to watch him get his butt kicked for a scene? No.
No.
He's going to win everything.
Yeah,
and
and
that's how I feel about
sometimes
Lee.
that is
Exactly.
infinitely more satisfying.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
they
this is
know
so
it.
satisfying.
Yeah, they know when to do it.
Well, and the cool thing about that scene also, and I think I brought it up beforehand with you, Reese, but the bottles, they didn't have breakable bottles. Well, sorry, they had breakable bottles.
The
as we
sugar-
see.
they didn't have
They
the
didn't have
sugar
sugar
ones.
cane.
They
Yeah,
were
they didn't have.
unbreakable bottles, and he broke them.
That was all part of his ploy. But they didn't have the fake glass where you could
Yeah.
easily break it without people being hurt. And Bruce Lee said, "Screw it, use real bottles, break them, and come at me as fast as you can."
so cool.
And they're like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Yes, because that's what Bruce Lee does."
He's so
Yeah.
cool.
And ended up after like 8 rounds of that, he ended up getting his fist cut pretty bad and had to get like 16 stitches or something like that. But
8 rounds though.
yeah, he did a bunch of takes, and then afterward, he's like, "That's what happens," and they just
Yeah.
kept going.
Dude's so cool.
I know.
Yeah, and it's a very satisfying fight. I also love how we established the other two characters, Williams and Roper. How this kind of furthers their relationship. Williams makes quick work of his adversary, and then Roper and Williams are like, "Hey, like bet this much. We'll do some side dealings." Him knowing fully well that Roper's gonna maybe take a few on the chin.
He
and
knows
then,
how Roper
like,
works.
Yep.
and then ultimately win. So I liked seeing that setup and payoff of their fight as well. So I think all this, I'm really feeling this movie at
Yeah.
this point.
Oh,
like
yeah.
in the
We
very
all
very
are.
beginning was my
Word.
only hesitation towards it, and every scene afterwards would
Yep.
just progressively. I kind of like fell in love with it.
Oh, that was me too. The beginning, I had a slight worry,
Yeah.
and then it just eased into it so well.
Yep. And it's by the way, it's very rewatchable. Like,
It is.
having seen it twice, like
You need to
a third
rewatch it.
time.
It's on in the background, and
yeah.
I'm having trouble not watching it again.
I know. I brought that up to Reese. It's one of my. That's how you can really distinguish a good movie. If
Yes.
even if it's not the greatest movie ever made, if you can keep watching it, they did something right.
And I feel like
this movie
you
did.
have to, in order to give this movie its fair shake and fully appreciate it, because like we kind of talked about earlier, to overcome that initial stereotype of kung fu movie, like the first
Yeah.
watch through, you're like still adapting to it and acclimating
Yeah.
to it. And then once you're like, okay, I'm getting used to what this is about, then you watch it again and like, wow, okay, each scene, each take, all the, I don't
Yep.
know, it
Yeah.
works.
And it just goes down so easy. Like, it's like each scene progresses into the next, and you just are like, oh, I can't wait to, like, oh, I know what's going to happen now.
It's
I'm
smooth.
excited.
Yeah. And Bruce Lee in this movie just gives me such a, knowledgeable battle expert vibe.
Yeah.
That we're watching it in the background, and there's a scene where he's trailing behind this guy.
Like just one of the night guards, basically.
One of these
yeah.
night guards. He's infiltrated the palace, or whatever you want to call it. I guess I said palace, but I don't really know what
the
it's
whole
called.
thing is
The
a fortress.
compound.
It's a compound. Yeah.
The compound. And he like quietly trails behind this guy, ready to strike if he turns around. But then right at the last moment, he ducks and covers to the right.
Body
instead of
language. It's good body language.
giving him. But his eyes are in the. I'm not nearly an expert on anything
Martial arts.
martial
related.
arts, fighting, whatever. But that's it. I don't know how
Preparedness.
it is, but it's just his knowledge is shown through visual
Yeah.
cues.
Well, and
in
that's
such
what
a
they
good
always
way.
said about Bruce Lee in general. I mean, and I'm sure that translates to his acting in this, is just how confident he was.
Yeah.
How no matter what he did it 110% and never wavered. Although
He's like rappelling down into the thing, and that's
Yep.
him.
Yep.
He's doing all of his own stunts. It's so cool.
Grabbing
Fun fact,
cobras.
though, about this movie was that in the very beginning, before they shot the first scene, he was apparently super nervous and
Oh, yeah.
skipped a day of filming.
No, more than
and-
multiple days.
What was it? A couple days?
Yeah.
Yeah, he skipped a few days, and they ended up having to shoot some B-roll. And Warner Brothers called, and they're like, "How's it going?" And the director's like, "It's going great.
Just thumbs
yeah,
up.
Yeah, we're good. You're gonna love it."
Everything's fine.
And so they finally coerced Bruce to come to the film or to do some shots, and they gave him an easy shot where he just kind of like is sitting in a chair and kind of like turns his head. They're like, "See, now you're good." And they said after that he was just gung ho.
Interesting.
But he had to like warm up to it.
I bet he was nervous about the camera.
Yeah, probably.
Of all
So-
the
Well,
things.
being a perfectionist too is,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is that when you're a perfectionist, you're like, it's not gonna be perfect, and so that alone scares you into inaction.
Yeah.
So
I also think there's more pressure on this production because it was. I could be wrong. Don't quote me, but it was the first like co-U.S.
It was.
production, and this was supposed to be it was his big like coming out party as an international star.
and representing an ethnic group as well.
Yeah,
So it's
it's a lot of
Yeah.
pressure.
It's a lot of weight on your shoulders.
So yeah, I get it.
And he carries it.
But you would not detect any of that from this. It's
Yeah. he's top
as
of
I
the
said,
food
like-
chain. I mean, even just he's a stalking predator. Like, even the final confrontation to the mirrors, like everything is just like,
Yes.
Can I talk quickly about the the visual language of this movie, the cinematography? I love this movie's use of color. Like it is.
yeah.
I don't think it's like the prettiest movie ever made, but the visual language is like you never know. You're never confused about who is fighting who.
yeah,
Or anything, and everyone is vibrantly dressed up in these different colors, and you
Even
always
the fake blood doesn't bother me because it's like
Yeah.
all part of it. Like,
yeah. There's so much just visual clarity to this movie, and it's very refreshing. I mean, we've lived in an era where you have a gray army fighting a gray army, and it just looks like chaos, and I can't tell what's going on. It's so nice to watch a movie where I know exactly what is going on at every time. And I know, oh, that's the good guy, that's the bad guy. Oh, so easy.
They're throwing out colors like it's nobody's business.
Yeah. There's so many. Yeah, I just.
Bright yellows, bright blues, bright purples, reds. And
What other colors are there?
white.
All the colors.
I'm just saying, like, they really do a good job of making it easy for you to understand.
Yeah. So we haven't talked about the
Bolo.
So we set up the tournament. We kind of, we got into the fights. Bolo destroyed.
Bolo is Goro from Mortal Kombat.
Leading up to Bolo, he is Goro. Like, very similar names. Another just 1-for-1, man. Like, Mortal Kombat. Guys,
Dude.
How lazy are y'all? Sorry, but...
This is, like, the original, like, you don't want to fight that guy.
Yeah.
Like...
But leading up to that, let's talk about the espionage side of this, so we do see Lee doing some covert ops, trying to figure out what's going on in this compound. Then we do have our fight with Bolo after that, and we also have Kain, or however you say his name, the big bad.
Just call him Han. That's his name.
Yeah, we have the big bad suspecting Williams for whatever reason.
Because he took a walk out, and
That's right.
Yeah, it was obvious that he was out of his location or where he's supposed to be lodging.
He was just training.
That conversation, by the way, escalated real quick.
Oh, yeah.
It seemed like a pretty cordial interaction, and suddenly he's like, I'm going to kill you.
Man, you're straight out of a comic book.
So I guess, how are y'all feeling at this portion? Do you like the spy stuff in this movie?
Yes.
You do?
I really do, because I think it just adds to the kind of character Lee is, where he's not showy. He's efficient, and I think that is another stereotype I expected from a kung fu or martial arts film, is that they're just going to take every opportunity they can to showcase this person's fighting style. But there's a level of intention about the movie that I really, really appreciate. And his character is, he's perfect for espionage, because he's silent, he's intense, and he's to the point. Like, he knows exactly what he's doing. And I love kind of all those silent moments where you can see him calculating and figuring out, like, how to get around this obstacle, or, like those two guys in the observation room. Where he just picks up a snake along the way, and he's like, oh yeah, I could use this here.
I still, like, one of the funniest scenes in this movie, and maybe it just tickles me, but I've replayed it multiple times now, is when he does throw that snake in. Their solution is not to, like, step around the snake. No, they pick up a chair, they break the glass, and one guy, like, hurls himself head first
Swan dive.
out the window.
Swan dives out.
Swan dive into what I can only imagine is a concrete floor, where he then bleeds to death because
Breaks
of
his
his brain
neck,
injury.
Lee's eyes are like, these idiots.
It's just like, wow,
good.
all right.
The other guy kind of steps down out of the glass. He's like, nah, I'm not doing that.
I'm not doing that.
The other guy's a little...
My partner here is a bit extra.
And that other guy, Jackie Chan. No, no, it wasn't.
He is in this movie somewhere. I still don't think we quite pinpointed where he is.
He is in the fight where he has the nunchucks, where he has the sticks before the nunchucks. That's when he fights him.
Okay.
He's
Well, I
wearing
need
like a kind of a tan brown. He's the last guy that comes to fight him in that outfit.
Oh, okay.
Like, I need to just look up the, hey, Jackie Chan in Enter the Dragon screenshot to see, like, the 2 seconds of the movie that he's in before he gets kicked in the head or whatever. All right, so Williams... I've been loose on the plot, so I apologize.
Yeah,
but
no, it's
Williams is captured. Like, he gets beaten up, and he's captured, and he's... My confusion over this scene is, like, yeah, they kill him, but they dangle him over a pit with spikes around the pool, but there's nothing really in the pool. Like, it's not like a
Sharks freaking laser beams on their heads.
I'm like,
Could
what are
be
you
like
falling
acid.
into exactly? And it just looked like water.
Yeah, it was
But
just water with spikes around it.
It wasn't even spikes on it. Like, they're not gonna fall on spikes. It's just surrounded. by
whatever
I
it
just
is, it
thought
can't
it was
be good.
just to kind of imply that he might have been tortured. But
yeah,
I
like
don't.
dunked in the water and
Yeah,
kept down there
who
for
knows?
whatever time.
Who knows? But it's more it's more of a display for Roper, really, than it is
Yeah.
anything practical.
I will say it is an unfortunate look that this movie kind of gives into the typical 70s, 80s, like black guy dies first type thing. It kind of would have been cool to see all three of these guys surviving, but I get
And fighting
why.
at the end.
Yeah, I get why you have to have some sort of stakes.
Yeah.
But I think the stakes are already established earlier on when you see people dying and his Lee's sister's already dead and all that. But yeah, kind of, I feel like there was more juice that they could have squeezed out of Williams's character. I kind of wanted to see more of him.
Yeah, he was kind of ahead of the curve on the cusp of the blaxploitation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And by the way, this spawned a genre that I did not know was a thing, but the Bruceploitation as well. Like apparently that's what the kung fu, all the kind of waves of kung fu films that came after this was apparently under the Bruceploitation banner.
Interesting.
Dang, it
I
was
mean,
based on his
inspirational
name.
for Bruce himself, but I mean, even Goku from Dragon Ball Z, Street Fighter, obviously Mortal Kombat, like fighting games in general.
Yes,
directly
like this,
traced back.
Dragon Ball Z, Noah's favorite anime would not exist without
all of
this.
you people. I don't care.
No,
who
we
you
all know
are.
you love Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball fans can suck it.
We have a lot of Dragon Ball Z fans that listen to this.
I don't care how many thousands of people that
It's a
listen
very
to this.
influential anime.
I watched
and give me hate.
I tried to give that show a chance, and the first episode had a turtle that was like horny for a little girl, and
Master
I was like,
Roshi.
There's
you
a
know
little
what,
boy.
or whatever.
Yeah.
I just was like,
That
maybe
makes it better.
maybe not, maybe not for me.
They're an angel.
It was just
Look, Dragon
it's
Ball
just
is not that bad. I watched almost all of Kai when they released that in like the mid 2000s. It was pretty good.
The thing is, it's probably good. It's just you got to wade through a bunch of.
But once you get to
I
like
disagree.
good anime, you're just like it comparatively.
See, that's what I'm saying. When you get to actually good stuff, that's
But Bruce Lee inspired it. That's what we're saying.
But to AJ's point, like the video game genre, like the fighter genre, likely would not be the same without Enter the Dragon. It was like highly influential on Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, all those video game franchises. That 1v1 type side
Tournament.
scroll, or 2D. It's not 2D, but
2D
you know what
side
I mean.
scroll, yeah.
Well, they're 3D now. But
Now they're
still
3D.
like side
scroll,
profile.
yeah.
You know, that would not be a thing without this movie. So pretty crazy influential. All right, so we've gotten to the Williams fate. Let's finish out that story.
Lee sneaks out again that night and manages to send a message to Braithwaite, but he is captured after a prolonged battle with the guards. The next morning, Han arranges for Roper to fight Lee, but Roper refuses. As a punishment, Roper has to fight Bolo instead, whom he manages to overpower and beat after a grueling battle. Enraged by the unexpected failure, Han commands his remaining men to kill Lee and Roper. Facing insurmountable odds, they are soon aided by the island's prisoners and the other invited martial artists who have been freed by Mei Ling. Han escapes and is pursued by Lee, who finally corners him in the museum. After a brutal fight, Han runs away into a hidden mirror room. The mirrors initially give Han an advantage, but Lee smashes all the mirrors, revealing Han's location and eventually kills him. Lee returns outside to the main battle, which is now over. Bruised and bloodied, Lee and Roper exchange a weary thumbs up as the military finally arrives to take control of the island.
So that just reminded me that I didn't notice this on first watching, but since we've been watching it a second time with subtitles on, I can, understand more clearly what people are saying. But if you go back to the beginning of the movie, Lee's master or whoever he was exactly.
Not Braithwaite. The other.
It's just his
guy.
master.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was talking to him about how the enemy will use tricks and illusions to hide their, other intentions and stuff like that, and that you need to break it in order to find them. And so then at this scene, there are all these mirrors that he's smashing, and he ends up defeating Han. It's just like a cool sort of full
tie-in.
circle thing. But
He took it a
the
little
thing
more
is-
directly than was intended,
Yeah.
but
He
it
was
worked.
very
But
specific.
when you think about movies like this, how many movies have been so heavy-handed about that messaging?
Yeah.
Where before he defeats the enemy, you get this little flashback to what the master said, and he's like, "Oh," and then starts smashing mirrors
Yeah.
or something.
But this
So-
was
the answer
the
all
beginning.
along.
yeah, I
Well,
love.
I mean, this movie kind of did that, where it's there's the voiceover kind of
yeah,
comes back in.
it's a little later, but still, it's just
Yeah.
kind of I don't know. Once you really think about it,
But
that
this
moment's
one
cool.
was the OG.
yeah.
Can I say, I think my favorite line in this movie comes from Roper, where the head honcho has shown him the guillotine, and he's like, "Hey, put your head in here as an act of faith," and then
Oh,
he's like,
yes.
"Nah, I'm not a faithful I don't have a lot of faith," and then the cat puts it in, and he's like, oh, "Okay." And then he says, "Okay, now you got 8 lives." That was a good line.
Yeah.
But then the guy drags him or takes him down to his compound, and he says he sees what's happening down there, and he's like, "Opium. Uh-oh."
yeah, it's so simple. but it's so
Roper has
effective.
some of the best lines. Even earlier, he
Uh-oh.
looks in the mirror at himself. He goes, "What'd you get yourself into this time?"
Yeah.
Like something like that.
He has a very Baxter from King Kong energy,
Yeah.
but smarter.
yeah.
He's more intuitive.
He's almost like he kind of gives me the impression of a con man, where they're a little bit neutral. They have their own allies, but they still have their own moral
Chaotic
code,
good.
I guess.
Yeah, I just love the implications of that scene though when he says "uh-oh" because he now realizes that the villain has played his hand, and if he's not
Literally
willing
played
to,
his hand.
Yeah.
exactly. And if he's not gonna play along, it's like, "Oh, I'm dead."
I'm dead.
Or-
Yeah, he's
like he's shown me the
everything.
opium stuff.
Yep,
We are literally looking at the drug situation.
Uh-oh.
And I also love this where he's showing him all his attachments, and one of them is just a literal skeleton hand. And I'm like, when do you put this skeleton hand on? Like
Halloween.
when he's feeling.
It's the Halloween party he
He
throws
lives
every
it
year.
up during spooky times.
He uses it when his grandchildren comes to visit. He's just,
Oh no, my hand
"Oh,
melted
my
off.
hand.
Look, yeah, it was
Stuck
like
it
the
in
nose
the boiling
trick.
pot. Yeah.
Low key, just like the sweetest grandfather to his family.
I almost want to see like a funnier version of this movie where he keeps going to these different attachments and they just get more and more ridiculous.
Something's like
yeah.
just waggling like
Yeah,
this.
because there's literally no
scratcher.
use for a skeleton hand. What
Well,
was that,
there's
AJ?
also no use for a switch that's a guillotine that is really just an elevator.
Yeah, like how many people has he actually beheaded on this thing?
He specifically uses this every time he has someone go to the opium den.
All right, but that leads to us seeing Williams dead over the spike pit.
Not a good look.
Not a great look.
This movie doesn't pull punches.
No,
In more ways than one.
Yeah.
no. And then we're at our final tournament where it's Bolo versus Roper and Lee versus oh my gosh, an army of people.
Everyone.
Yes.
This is. I really enjoyed the fight with between Bolo and Roper because there were genuine stakes there.
Yeah.
Because you saw Roper fight before, and he was like, "Oh, this guy."
Roper is not
You slip up, you're
impenetrable
gonna
like Lee.
Yeah,
your-
exactly.
Your body's gonna be broken.
Yeah, I was fully expecting him to die following.
Actually,
Williams'
yeah,
death.
we
This
just see
guy-
Williams die, so you're like, okay, they're not afraid
Yeah.
to kill a main character.
This guy's like Asian, the Mountain from Game of
Well,
Thrones.
yeah, Bolo Young's just the actual guy. I mean, he was a bodybuilder, so that's that kind of strength versus speed thing. But Bruce Lee was always underestimated on his strength itself because it's like, okay, you're a small guy, wiry guy. Sure, you're fast, but you have strength. And
Yeah.
actually, Bolo Young, behind the production, he kept wanting to kind of have a sparring. They would spar off the scene, off the set and stuff. And finally, Bruce Lee's like, okay, yeah, we'll do it. And Bruce Lee hits him one time in the chest, and Bolo's like, okay, that's enough, because that's how
right,
impactful
we're
it
good.
was. Yeah.
We're good. That's enough. That's all I need.
Bodybuilding is not exactly the same as fighting.
No, I mean he wasn't exclusively bodybuilding, but yeah, I mean he's a strong guy for sure. But yeah,
You can tell he does have some moves in this. He is at least instructed by someone for this movie.
Yeah. So how'd y'all feel about the initial releasing of all the prisoners, the final fight between, not the final fight, but the above ground fight between all these our main characters here and the villains? What are y'all's impressions?
Jackie
Perfect
Chan.
amount of chaos to like kind of start just things going off.
It was just enjoyable, you know. This is that the main scene where, like y'all were talking about earlier, everything is color coded in a really good way, so you can always tell. Okay, the people wearing black, that's our side. The people wearing white, that's who we're against right now. Oh, the guy with the hand, yeah, he's bad.
That's Han.
Or without the hand, I should say. And you know, Bruce Lee, I think, takes his shirt off, and what's his name?
Because it gets ripped a little bit, so then
Yeah.
you gotta take it off, show those
it,
muscles.
it makes sense, and I'm absolutely okay with it in this case. And then Roper, isn't he wearing blue or something? I
Yellow.
can't remember. Yellow. You're right. Yellow. I think earlier he's wearing blue. But I think that was really cool how they have, you know, Lee initially, you know, fighting the kind of the grunts, and then he like locks eyes with Han, and kind of the seas part for them to fight briefly before Han is
Pansies out.
you know, he realizes this is a little much for me to handle.
I'm a bit out of my depth.
Yeah. He starts running away, finds a claw hand.
Maybe
and-
guns would have been a good idea.
yeah. Maybe I should have kept them. Yep. But it's really cool. That last fight is great. There's a mic drop in the form of spinning Han on the thing that he's been impaled on. Mm-hmm. What do you call those
The
doors?
door, the trick door.
Yeah.
Oh, we haven't talked about, let's talk about the final confrontation, the mirrors and all that. The clever use of all this like mirror room that has inspired so many films going forward. And for the third time, I'm going to reference John Wick. That second movie, there is a very similar mirror confrontation with some of the baddies in that movie. So like, very cool. I'm amazed. Like I was looking very closely in the reflections to see if I could see like the camera crew or the film crew in any of those images. And you know, you probably could pinpoint it if you freeze framed anything, but from my two viewings, I couldn't catch it. So I thought I'm just kind of impressed with the ingenuity of this scene, having so many reflective surfaces, and just I don't know, it was cool. Like it really adds something awesome seeing like his reflection at different levels just as they're fighting. It's
very
cool.
artsy.
Yeah,
Very art house.
It
And
is
then
very-
Bruce Lee
Mirror House.
calculating the whole thing, and you know, trying to observe where he is.
I like to imagine in real life, though, because it makes it seem as though, whoa, we're in like a mirror funhouse. I'll never be able to find him. But it kind of just looks like a semicircle. I'm like, no, he's just right there behind you. He's just
It's not
turn around.
necessarily like a where is he like searching kind of thing. It's just like adding to the atmosphere of it.
Yeah. It was really cool. Like, yeah, this movie ends strong, and once he does take the guy out with the spear, goes back above ground or outside, and both him and Roper look at each other, give a thumbs up. I liked that, just kind of
Yes.
establishing the friendship there. Like,
Bit
hey,
of
maybe
camaraderie.
there's a future for these guys. Cut to credits. Just so satisfying to watch this movie, and just a delight. I thought.
Yeah. It's really fun.
Yeah. So, any thoughts on the finale, guys? I know we kind of sped close to the finish here, but I mean, there was only one paragraph that we had to discuss, but
I think the ending is slightly just like a little too quick.
too clean.
Because the what you want to actually see, they did really well, which is, you know, killing the villain. Everybody wins. But he kind of just walks outside, he gives a thumbs up, and then you just see names start scrolling. We're like, what?
So many
Okay.
movies did that back then. it's crazy how many movies of that era I've seen that just ended so abruptly and then cut to credits.
Yeah.
Like there's no movies back then didn't have an epilogue where it was like, oh, okay, the dust has
The wrap
settled
up.
and now let's do this. They would just
5
cut.
post-credit scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I didn't have too much issue with it. I did kind of want to see more reckoning with the, like, what happens to this island and...
Well, he's
like,
there for a mission with Hathwaite. We don't see Hathwaite. We don't see anybody from...
Braithwaite, you mean?
Braithwaite, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have liked a little bit of that, but I almost chalked that up to, like, oh, this is going to be a franchise and we'll just next mission, maybe we'll reference it in the next one, who knows? I don't know.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. Anyone else have any final thoughts?
I do wish we could have said more about, I don't know, the life of Bruce Lee and his impact, because if you're interested in learning more about that, I highly suggest looking into his life. There's so many documentaries, there's so many things about him, and he is extremely interesting in just 32 years of life. He has so many things you can look into. So
Well, let's bring it up in the franchise.
yeah,
Well,
we'll
fine.
talk some of it.
Just a little tidbit here for you before the break. I mean, he was also one of those guys that was humble and got along with not only the cast but the crew, the production on set, like to the extent where he would like bring extra lunch so that he could feed, because he thought that the catering or whatever wasn't good enough for the production crew. Like he would share his own lunch and stuff, and got along with people, really built rapport with all the other, I don't know, like just earned people's respect.
Yeah.
And I think
I've
that
heard-
did a lot to further, him being a representative for, the Asian ethnicity in America, and bring that to, Hollywood. And like he really earned his status as a ambassador, I guess you could say.
Yeah. And it does kind of call to mind that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Y'all see that movie?
Yeah.
Where apparently there's Bruce Lee wouldn't treat stuntmen well. I don't know a lot about how that was behind the scenes, but from what I've researched is that he would have a good relationship with everyone on set, but he wouldn't pull his punches, and that was just because of like a striving for authenticity in the fight scenes.
Right.
So it's like, the thing is, yeah, there's people that seem to think he has like a massive ego. From what I could tell, like, yeah, sure, maybe he thinks he's really good at what he does, and
Because he
well,
was.
he is.
I
mean,
I'm a little biased because my best friend in college, like, I kind of idolized Bruce Lee, but so that kind of rubbed off on me. And yeah, I mean, he's a super interesting person to look into, and anyone that goes through the kind of life that he, like, even in Hong Kong, going through like some gang wars and street fights and stuff, like,
yeah,
is not going to be super relatable to the average American even now. And so I think there's a there's a distinction between ego and intensity, and they're not necessarily mutually exclusive. And of course, I wasn't there. I don't know any of these people, but I think that's something that might be considered.
Well, he said it in an interview that I watched in preparation for this, where he was like, I've been asked, am I the best or am I good? And he's like, well, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm really good. I'm not going to say like I'm the best or have an ego about it, but I'm also not going to say that,
I think I have the quote for
I'm
you.
not going to be modest. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so they said, are you the best? And he said, well, if I told you that I was the best and I said I believed it, then I would be full of myself.
Yeah.
But if I said I wasn't, I'd be lying.
Yeah. So it's like,
Dude, that's
just
a good line.
it's just that's kind of sums him up, He, I don't know.
Well, it's like he kind of earned that spot because he fought for it, like not a lot of people can boast that,
Yeah.
So when do you give yourself credit for all the hard work you've done?
I think people are afraid to give yourself credit for the hard work that you put in because it will come across as arrogance. And there is a healthy amount of pride that you can have in the art that you've, in the work that you put in.
And you say art, I mean, martial arts itself.
Yeah.
Martial arts is not only physical. I mean, there's definitely emotional, psychological aspects to it. And, you know, to someone who's so devoted to that, they're going to be combative, you know, kind of by nature. So you're in this, I guess, defensive position that's confident in yourself and, you know, to the extreme. I guess intense is really the best way I can think of it. So
Yeah.
Intense is the perfect word.
yeah, he pushed the limit of martial arts as his identity.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, and what I thought was super cool about learning about his childhood was he was learning a very popular type of kung fu called Wing Chun Kung Fu, and he was taught by Yip Man, who is like the creator of that, and it's just well renowned. But people found out in China that he is 25% British, which if you didn't know, he is.
Interesting.
But they're very specific in China, especially at that time, that you can't teach anybody who is not just 100% Chinese this stuff. And so people like left the classes. People were outraged that he was kind of learning this. So Yip Man ended up having to teach him in private because Yip Man didn't care and liked Bruce Lee and taught him in private. And then eventually Bruce Lee went on to, you know, take that, learned, you know, how to dance. He became the cha-cha master of like Hong Kong. He won the competition of Hong Kong
same as Noah.
when he was 18. He went on, became a boxing master. He learned all these different types of disciplines that he took that and combined it with his sort of understanding of Wing Chun and created his own type of martial arts, which was Jeet Kune Do, which is in English the way of the intercepting fist. And it is a modern martial art incorporating elements of both kung fu, fencing, and boxing. And so he was like,
grappling.
it doesn't
He's the
matter how you
prototypical
win, you just
mixed martial
win.
artist.
So
Yep.
it's funny you should mention that fencing thing because that scene he has with Scarface, whatever his name
We can
is.
call
Han.
him Scarface.
Oh wait, no.
Not Han.
Han.
Hara?
Hara, yeah.
So in that there is that stance they have, you know, where they're ready, and that
Yes.
fight was more about speed than it was about,
it's so
you know, actual landing
It
punches.
was Bruce Lee known for his speed.
So that scene did remind me of fencing because you have this moment where there's a pause
Blades
and then
up to each other.
it's someone's speed really that wins.
Also,
in
the way they had
end.
their
Yeah.
hands against each other's wrists.
Yeah. It's
Hey,
kind of like swords crossed almost.
You know what else you see that in? Avatar: The Last Airbender.
yeah.
There you go.
A little bit. It's like the wrists and that.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I know I know
That was
exactly what
just,
you're talking about.
That was just cool. I'm glad you said that.
It's really
'cause
cool.
Connection.
Yeah, learning about him is just so fascinating, and I'm glad we got to talk a little bit about it. We're going to talk a little bit more on the second half of this podcast, but
Half is, quarter. We'll just say.
listen to the other part of this podcast.
Yeah. All right. Honestly, I could not have thought of a better way to end these story portions. That was good. Thank you, David. All right, let's close out here. We'll take a quick break, and on the other end, we'll get into our brief reviews of the numbered scores, along with what critics thought. Then we'll get into some box office, and then a little bit of franchise talk.
Yeah, baby.
So we'll see you then. Welcome back. Let's talk Enter the Dragon. David, you got our scores there in a bowl.
I do.
You want to pull them?
Fine. All right. First up, Reese, you want to start us off with that sweet 9?
Nice.
9 out of 10. I think that's about where this movie sits for me. I don't want to say it's an absolute masterclass 10 out of 10 because there's certain things that I kind of wished it had a little bit more of, and I think the beginning gets off to a bit of a iffy start. I was kind of not sure of it at this point, and I also kind of wanted maybe just more tournament stuff. I don't know why. Like I just kind of wanted more tournament stuff, but apart from those slight nitpicks, I think this is easily one of the most influential movies I've seen in a long time. And just like, and I'll call back to it again, just like Fistful of Dollars, it's like, oh, I get it now. And as we've said, it unlocked so many things for me where I'm like, okay, I know where that came from. I know where this came from. it all makes sense now. And I really look for movies like this. They are gems where it just unlocks a pathway of cinema for you and influences. And this is definitively one of those movies. And I get why Bruce Lee was such a thing back in the day and why he's as renowned as he is, because he's magnetic to look at. I don't think he's like, it's one of those weird cases where I don't think he's the best like dramatic actor, but he's so like confident and he has such poise and such ability and skill that he's just, you can't deny that he's a star, you know? And this really does establish that. And and it's not just him that makes this movie good. It's a lot of pieces that really come together to form this, I don't know, this classic. Like I love Roper. I think he's like, I wasn't expecting to like this kind of, this other guy who's also, you know, a part of this tournament played by, John Saxon. I love the cinematography. I love the direction of this movie. Love the action. Obviously, it's great. I could have used a little bit more of those wide shots, as we talked about, that show the action in, you know, all of its glory. But it's one of those strange movies where its 70s, 80s-ness works in its favor because it has such a magnetic star that every shot that just zooms up in on him just adds to it instead of detracting or making you think it's cheesy. Like, it's so rare to find a movie like this that has all of those 70s tropes, yet all those tropes make it weirdly timeless. So yeah, Enter the Dragon, it's awesome. I'm so glad I've finally watched it. I've got my lovely Criterion Blu-ray now, and I'm going to cherish it with all my heart and continue to watch more Bruce Lee movies and catch up on this big blind spot in my, I don't know.
Reese, do you want to watch some more Kung Fu movies with me?
Yes.
I've got a list for you guys.
We should, and AJ's got you've got a lineup, it sounds like,
Yeah.
so,
Man.
I definitely want to hear that, and we should just all kind of catch up on this subgenre here, because I feel like there's a lot that can be mined from here that we haven't really tapped into. So
Yeah. Agreed.
Great movie. Thanks for choosing it, Noah. Easily the best of your
welcome.
miniseries.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Well, that's a good segue.
Yep.
No,
Because
Reese, that was a
next up-
great review. I just want to applaud you. That was really well put.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks.
it was
Agreed.
good.
Awesome. Thanks.
Here. Let's just end it there. All right.
I
Next
think he
up,
speaks for all of us.
He might actually. Next up is Noah with a 9 as well.
Yeah, this is, you know, this is like when you're at you're the best man at a wedding, and then like the dad does a really emotional speech that's really good, and then you're just awkward.
You're like, what do I do? I'm just the
Like,
best
oh,
man.
Happy.
You want to hear a funny
marriage.
story?
Happy marriage. Oh, come on. Wasn't that good?
No,
Happy marriage.
That's what you were like at my wedding.
I know.
Happy marriage.
I know. Anyways, 9. I'm really tempted to put it at 9.5 because I can't really think, like, the criticisms I have just feel so unimportant to me in how much I liked this movie. And I'm not gonna put it at a 10. I think I am gonna bump it to a 9.5 though.
All right.
Just because of, as Reese said before, Bruce Lee has this magnetism about him, and there's something really alluring about this film, to the choreography, the kind of noir nature of it, all the characters that are brought in. It's very colorful. It's cinematic. You know, and again, the choreography. My goodness, guys.
Yeah. Awesome.
I don't know. There's not much more I can say. I just really, really had a good time with it. I thought it was a lot of fun, and was genuinely surprised by how much I enjoyed it. Because normally, you know,
Older movies don't hold up the same way.
Or older movies don't do it as much for me, because in the modern day audience, which I am a part of, It is very, popcorn, very
Fast-paced.
Fast-paced, and this is fast-paced. I will say maybe that's why. I'm not sure. But there usually we don't. These aesthetics don't appeal as much to the modern crowd, but this managed to really appeal to me. So, yeah, 9.5.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right, next up, Irina, also with a 9.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm pretty much all the words I could say have been said. I think I do agree with you, Reese. Like, there was something holding me back from putting it higher, and it's the fact that I would love to see more of that tournament. I think it could benefit with just a little bit more meat in the sandwich there. But that's really it. Like, everything else just feels like it was done the way it should be, especially with so many obstacles that this movie went through, and still managed to pull together a film that is fully legible. Like, I never was once confused about what was happening. I loved all the characters in it, even though there wasn't too much to learn about them as far as flashbacks or interactions. You still got a lot of emotion, and you learned a lot about them just from their style of martial arts or their style of fighting, the way they briefly interact with their surroundings. So it's visually very telling, like, without having to learn anything about, the plot or what they're saying necessarily. But other than that, I think this is sort of a perfect film. These are the movies that make me want to start like a film club where people just get together to like go through a series of films.
that's
It's
kinda what
like,
we do.
oh yeah,
It's
kinda
let's-
what
We are a club.
yeah, it is. But, more specifically to focus on, all right, now we're going through our, Kung Fu series or our martial arts series. And then we meet every other week and we'll watch this one, bring popcorn, it's so much fun. And I am definitely going to be watching this movie again.
Yeah,
So.
me too.
Welcome to the
Alright.
club.
Next up, David with a 9.
Nice.
So we got 4 9s here so far. Again, hard to continuously harp on the same things. I had 2 things that I wanted to say, one of which Noah kind of brought up, which is when you have a movie that is this dated in this kind of time period that affects you emotionally the way a modern movie would, it becomes apparent just how much storytelling, if you do it right, can make a good movie. I haven't felt this way since A Fistful of Dollars. I know we talked about 2001, which was a good movie. But for some reason, I didn't have the same effect except for Fistful of Dollars. So I'm like, I could rewatch this. This is a good movie, and I don't know how I missed it. This is a great movie.
Yeah.
In the end, Bruce Lee is sort of an icon, and when you learn about his history, it just adds even more to the storyline. So watching the choreography, watching and learning about the production and how troubled the production actually was, knowing that, this was both China and the U.S. working on it together, that, when they're trying to even light some of these scenes that, they're like, normally we have all this budget for lighting and rigs and all this stuff, but currently we just have string, paper clips, and a light. And they're like, well, you got to make it work. And then they
And 2
find
different
ways
languages.
to solve these things.
Yeah.
And there's just something about it that just resonated with me. So I'm on board with, everything this film had to offer. And moving forward, I just think that, there are ways this film could have been better. Definitely, 100%. So there's no way it could be a 10 for me, because there's just, I can think of a couple ways to make this better. But just what they did for the time period is amazing. So a 9 seems fair to me.
Also mine was for the fact that there was going to be a sequel. Like, I would like to imagine that they just expanded off of this, and it got better. But
Yeah. And last up is AJ. And for, the first time in a while, we have a clean sweep of 9s.
No,
Actually, I think this might be the
9.5.
first time we did
No, I had
9s.
9.5.
Well, I
Did you?
originally put 9, but
Yeah.
I upgraded.
Oh, I didn't know if you did or not. Okay.
I'm
so-
actually happy.
But we
you
all did write
'cause
9s.
That's where I was dancing around
Okay.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I was pretty close to a 9.5. I tempered it a bit. I think, I mean, what we're all picking up on, and I'm happy about, is, when you recognize cliches, tropes, that phenomenon is started by something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is what started that phenomenon. This is the origin, the OG of all these things. Not necessarily the first starting point, but what put it in the mainstream and established it. And it's good that, especially with kung fu movies, I mean, there's so much cliche that can be easily dismissed. But I'm glad that everyone here is recognizing that this is what set that precedent. And it does it so well and so entertainingly. Bruce Lee, we've talked about, I mean, he's just a force of nature of, himself.
Yeah.
And he brings that energy to this movie. And the cinematography, I mean, especially the mirrors that fight, everything about it is very memorable, and so well done. The influence that this movie has, just a ripple effect on multiple media, video games, comics, manga, anime, other movies, just it's massive. There are opportunities here that I really wish. I mean, story is the weak part of this. The whole spy intro, and Noah picked up on it early on, is like, the revenge motivation here is kind of easily dropped from the beginning with his sister dying. Like, I kind of forget about it by the end, or forget about the whole spy thing. For a Bruce Lee revenge movie, I definitely recommend Fist of Fury. I mean, that's just pure rage, and I love that. I like that movie better. So having kind of more of a broader experience with that is tempering me down from the perfection that a 10 would represent here. So there's opportunity for fleshing out actual story and motivation for this character, and there's a bit more fighting fury that could have been shown as well, but a very well balanced showing for the American market that launched a massive phenomenon. So Enter the Dragon definitely earned its 9 in my books.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, AJ, you want to crunch those numbers for us?
All right. Group average for Enter the Dragon is a 9.1. That's tied with Django Unchained, The Prince of Egypt, and 2001: A Space Odyssey. So another trendsetter there.
I love
Yeah.
that. Those are all great
Up
movies.
there
to
in our
watch, too.
esteemed 9
And
to
Noah's
10 list.
first overall positive review for his miniseries.
And not only
Hey.
positive, that like skyrocketed.
positive.
no, it way positive.
Hey, do you mind doing an averaging of all?
Oh,
like,
no.
That's gonna take some time.
Well, no,
this
just,
series?
just
No, it won't. He has it already.
yeah, like our list, this film
Filmography.
series. So
Yeah.
like
The,
the Highlander or the
Deadly-
Mortal Kombat through this.
Let's see.
Well, I don't think he was present for.
Well,
No,
I'll
but
do
the
that.
scores are on there.
Because I want to see how much it went up because
All right.
of.
So average, including Enter the Dragon, is a 5.3.
Oh no!
Wow.
Oh
Carrying some weight here.
Yeah, Bruce Lee carrying again.
Oh man,
That's rough, Noah.
Hey, think about it this way. Probably without that, it would have been in the 4s or
Yeah. No, it did a lot of heavy lifting.
4s, which
That's
means it put it
insane.
above average.
Yeah.
Well, assuming 5 is average.
So
like-
Yeah,
Highlander.
without this movie, it's 4.7.
Yeah,
Yeah, your second best is Highlander, which I think had 6.5.
that's good.
That's good. I mean, it's not bad. It's
Highlander
not
is a
bad.
good movie.
But you have to acknowledge the fact that we were forced to watch 3 other Highlander movies.
Yep.
After
Yep.
the initial one, which tanked the score.
Yep. Well, also Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Yeah. But I mean, we knew that was going to be bad. But
Even Mortal Kombat 1.
But there's 3 different Highlanders that brought it down.
Yeah,
It could have just been like one of each.
I think really though the death knell of yours was Highlander 2 because I think
Yes.
that was renownedly like, oh gosh,
That
like,
was
what
the
was
bell that
thing?
told my
yeah. I'm
I'm just
franchise.
going to say, somebody messaged me and said they liked that movie.
Oh,
Who
well,
did?
Just somebody.
Somebody.
I'm not going to...
That's fine. There's always somebody that likes a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. What did critics think of Enter the Dragon? On Rotten Tomatoes, we have a 95%
Hey, there
from
it
critics
is.
and a 91% from audiences, same as us.
That's us.
There you go.
We're the audience.
On Metacritic,
Look
it has
at
an
that.
83 with a 7.7 from audiences, and on IMDb, a 7.6 out of 10. So good reviews across the board, good to great. Lines up with this movie's classic status. Let's move on to box office. The movie released wide on August 19th in 1973. It opened at, oh, that's wrong. Sorry. Yeah, released on August 19th in 1973. Also playing in theaters were, nope, that's wrong. I'm not going to say what was playing. We'll just say it released in 1973.
Alongside other movies.
Now, at the time, it had a budget of $850,000, and that inflates to $5.5 million back in the day.
Dang.
So, in terms of this box office the box office game, we're gonna go with the inflated total.
Okay.
And caveat here: this movie replayed in theaters numerous times up into the 90s.
I love to hear that.
Yeah, so I am counting all of that.
Oh my gosh.
And just for the fun of it,
30 years?
yeah, just for the fun of it, I'm going to inflate that as if it was 73.
You're insane.
So
This
it's
is the
just hard-
weirdest round we've ever
I know
done.
it's hard to calculate, but I'm just gonna do it because it's
Okay.
The result of this is gonna be more fun that way.
I feel like
Okay.
that. I feel like the Hangover
What?
at the poker table or the casino.
The numbers.
And going into your predictions, this on is one of the most like crazy, I don't know, theatrical replays that I've seen of just
What's the
wow.
starting again?
1973,
What's the inflated?
5.5.
5.5 million budget. What do y'all think this movie did worldwide,
Oh,
including all of the re-releases in theaters, which I will say, in general, in most cases, doesn't net a movie that much more. But this might be the exception. We'll see.
I'm already so bad at guessing.
By the way, this is the inflated guess.
I
Okay,
know.
Ariana, I'll start with you since
I have no, there's, if you look in my mind, there's just white space.
Reese
Nothing.
Reese is definitely hinting towards higher, though.
Oh,
While,
yeah.
while you think, I will just throw a movie out there that was actually suggested to us recently. American Graffiti was also an August of 73 release.
Well,
Rocky,
American
Wait, was it
Graffiti.
American Graffiti. Oh, American
that's
Graffiti.
right.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Arena, or I can go to someone else if you don't want to go first. You want me to go to David first?
No, it's okay. I'll honor the code.
Honor the code.
The code. More guidelines, if you ask me.
The actual rules.
Let's just say, I'm just going to go with 200 million.
200 million. All right. Noah,
At least $2.
at least $2. Yet the
You're
movie
not
made
wrong.
$2. You're correct.
Hey, that's inflated, too.
I'll give a genuine answer. And that's inflated, yeah. So we're
Honestly,
talking
it's probably
like
more than 2.
5. No. That is tricky. I'll say 100 million.
100 million.
Yeah.
David.
$1 billion.
Okay. Wow.
That's,
wow.
I did it. I said it.
Yeah.
AJ.
Yeah, you did.
I'm recusing myself because I already know a fair bit.
He knows.
The recusant.
He knows.
Okay.
I know too much.
David, you're correct.
Nice.
Really?
So this is
Really?
more
Whoa.
than probably what it actually has, but I inflated it to 1973 standards. We have a total of 2.279 billion.
Wow.
Holy
So So you were even like half of what.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
original.
So in
before
reality, I
inflation,
was $1.5 billion off.
Yeah, this movie is
400 million before inflation.
yeah. So yeah, 350 million, 400 million before inflation, which
Wow.
of that time, that is insane.
Yeah.
Like just like this movie is huge. Like I
No
when I
wonder
looked
it's a
it up, I
cultural
knew Enter the
phenomenon.
Dragon was big, but I didn't realize it was like this.
That's like
big.
bigger than Titanic big.
No, I mean not quite. I mean
No, the iceberg.
like
It's bigger than the iceberg.
Titanic hit 1.8 billion at the time and probably adjusts to higher than this.
Put it in
but-
perspective here. Like back then, Grumman's Chinese theater, the famous theater in Hollywood. Back then there's a line for a movie, and maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes long. People were lined up for this movie 2.5 hours ahead of the showtime
Yeah.
my
in
gosh.
1973.
This was the ultimate like caught on like wildfire and just exploded. Like it just people could not get enough of Enter the Dragon. And I think this movie, yes, Bruce Lee did have a history of being in good kung fu movies before, but this was just a huge breakout.
Well, it's the first English one. I mean, they had other ones in Shanghai with I think it was Harvest, Golden Harvest, something like that.
That's the
That was
production
like,
company.
yeah. So it's very different.
Yeah, like I knew this was a classic, but I had no idea that it was, I don't know, this.
Phenomenon.
Yeah, exactly. It's huge. Like you would think that today you would have like collector's editions of this thing just constantly in circulation. Yet, I mean, yeah, you can find Enter the Dragon, but based off its box office and the legacy of this movie, you'd think like, oh, they'd be re-releasing this every
Yeah.
2 years.
Like there would be more of a footprint as far
Yeah,
as
'cause
Kung
like,
Fu
Why
is
aren't we
still
seeing
kind
this
of
at the Alamo
pigeonholed.
Draft
Yeah.
House?
Yeah.
It's still
I
kind of
actually,
pigeonholed as a
I
genre.
think they have shown it at the Draft House before.
Oh,
Like
of
it's
course.
been on their list before.
Yeah. But yeah, massive. It even like surprised me as a box office guy. I usually follow this type of thing pretty closely, but I had no idea that Enter the Dragon was this huge. So yeah, big surprise there. And yeah, no, I know that this 2.279 billion number that I came up with is inaccurate, but it's not that inaccurate. Like it's probably a little lower than that, but it's still definitely
It's over $1 billion.
Yeah,
What was
it's still in the
Infinity War?
billions. I think it was like 1.5 or 6. I think Endgame got higher. I think Endgame hit like 2 billion. It might have. But yeah, it's up there. I would love to I need to look up the inflated box office chart again just to see like where everything actually falls.
Infinity War was 2.048 billion.
Yeah. I think Gone with the Wind is still the number one, but that's cuz it came in like 1934.
Yeah, and there's like
or
3
something
other
like that.
movies playing.
Yeah. Exactly. And it was like the only thing people could go see.
And he said a bad word at the end.
Endgame is 2.798 billion, so 2.8 billion.
Wow. All right.
We should
Huge, massive box office. Let's move on to the franchise talk. So obviously we've talked about the influences of Dragon Ball Z. It influenced Dragon Ball, inspired all of the beat 'em up brawler video games.
Just a correction there. You said the influences of Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah,
think
sorry,
you meant-
Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. I think the show was originally called Dragon Ball and then evolved into Dragon Ball Z.
yeah.
Also, Double Dragon, the video game, is kind of a direct, not quite a sequel, but very inspired and kind of sequelizes Enter the Dragon. So if you want like a video game connection to this, that's the direct one. Also inspired Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, but we kind of already went into that. So back in the day, Warner Brothers, I don't know, say Bros, but Warner Brothers wanted to make this into a franchise, and Bruce Lee said he would only do it if they kept the title. And just to give you an idea, like Bruce Lee kind of fought for the title of this movie, Enter the Dragon. Like they wanted to call it something
and
like
Steel.
Blood and
Blood and
Steel.
Steel, yeah.
Yeah, and so he had conversations with WB about this, the franchise potential to this, and he said he would only do it if they continued the keeping Dragon in there because he was known as the like little dragon. I think that was his.
He was born in the Chinese zodiac in the year of the dragon.
Yeah, he was called the Little Dragon. So yeah, there was talk of continuing this franchise. There's people who have said, Scott Mendelsohn, he's a guy from Forbes who's always talked about, or he has mentioned Entered the Dragon as the James Bond series that could have been had Bruce Lee not passed away. Like this could have run concurrently with James Bond as one of the most massive, like espionage type action franchises.
Hot take. I think this is better than Dr. No.
I agree. I
also agree.
I agree. I think James Bond finds its stride at Goldfinger. But this also is a very much a proof of concept type movie where it's like, hey, here's the blueprint. Let's keep going.
Run with it.
You know?
He was talking to George Lazenby. So there's
George Lazenby, the On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Yeah, the one movie he did after Sean Connery.
Yeah, he had a one-off. Yeah, which is sad because that's a good movie. One of the better James Bond movies is On Her Majesty's Secret
Although
Service.
it depends on who you ask, because I've listened to a podcast where there are people who dislike
Well,
it.
they're wrong. It's just because George Lazenby's not an excellent actor, but the movie surrounding him is amazing. But I digress.
We digress.
So yeah, there was obviously like they wanted to franchise this. You can't find too much as to where this would have gone as a sequel, but Warner Brothers clearly had their eyes on making this a franchise, and due to the unfortunate passing of Bruce Lee, he didn't pass during this movie, but he passed while I want to say
a month
it was
before the premiere. He died on July 20th, 1973,
Yeah.
a month before the premiere.
Sad.
Yeah, and I think he was in the midst of recording like ADR or doing something for like added touches to this movie. Yeah, he had, I don't know if it was an overdose or a mix of like overheating and like an allergic reaction of some sort. Like it's a mix of different conflicting things as to how he died, but
he had
what were you gonna say?
precursors. He had precursors, similar symptoms while recording the ADR session, but the actual fatal event was later somewhere.
Yeah,
else.
he actually fainted, and everyone. I think this is a common misconception with the movie because a lot of people think he like died on set, like while like an action scene was happening. Not the case.
So his actual death, as it was originally stated, was death by misadventure, which, unlike death by accident, implies that the death occurred due to dangerous voluntary risk. So he basically was ruled to death by taking a equagesic after he had a second cerebral edema, which is like a swelling of the brain. So somebody gave him some medication that has some form of
And he had a reaction to that.
He had a reaction to
Yeah.
the medication the friend gave them. So that's the quote-unquote allergic reaction that he had. It was by accident, although that doesn't mean that there aren't speculations that maybe something else is happening behind the scenes. Maybe
Yeah,
he was
we
killed
read
by the
some-
Chinese mafia.
because he
Triads.
discovered Kubrick faking the moon landing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's look. I mean,
Sad.
rest in peace, Bruce Lee. I would have loved to have seen how his career would have continued post Enter the Dragon and the Death Game. What was it called? What was the name of that movie?
Murder Fest.
No. Let me find it. Yeah, The Game of Death. Sorry, I said Death Game.
Death Cure.
Yeah, super
Death
sad that we
Race.
lost him as early as we did, age 32. Obviously, that killed any potential for a franchise here in Enter the Dragon. But that has not stopped Hollywood from trying to remake this thing, which, unlike Highlander, I think this should never be touched. Like, don't touch Enter the Dragon. We do not need to remake this thing. Do y'all agree?
Well, who could do it? Like, there's two people I can think of in the top of my head, if they did it the right time, could have done a form of a sequel and or remake, but it's past the time.
So there was a very unfortunate rumor. David Leitch of, I think
I
he
know that
was
name.
John Wick, Deadpool fame. So just so you know, John Wick was directed by two people, Chad Stahelski and David Leitch. I believe David Leitch was the one who went on to split away from the John Wick franchise and direct Deadpool and Hobbs and Shaw and those movies. Let me confirm that real quick, just to make sure I am on the right page here. Yeah, so he did Deadpool 2 and Hobbs and Shaw. I don't know where I heard this, but I heard that they were going to recast the main guy with Ryan Reynolds. I don't know if that was true or not, but that sounds like the worst decision to ever do.
For Enter the Dragon?
To play Bruce Lee's character, Ryan Reynolds. That's like kind of unsubstantiated rumors, though. So I wouldn't put there's not a lot of salt to that. So, but yeah, apparently he's still attached to remake this movie, even though he has a whole bunch of projects going on. So apparently, like Enter the Dragon's been a idea to remake that's been batted around Hollywood for like forever.
Yeah.
And it just seems like constantly in this state of purgatory, which I kind of like that it's not moving forward anywhere. Because what's wrong with this movie?
I know. I would rather someone made something that was inspired.
Yeah.
You know, than from this movie.
Yeah,
not
just make a good Mortal Kombat movie.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do. Like, I don't need Enter the Dragon updated. It's fine.
Look, if you found out in the 90s or early 2000s that Jackie Chan was going to do a remake, would you have been just so offended?
No. Well, that's different though.
We're
you know
past
what I mean?
the time though of him.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Like-
what I'm saying. I could see Donnie Yen doing something.
He's getting up there though.
No, I know it's past his time.
We
Those are
also
the two
did
people.
kind of like almost a spiritual prequel with Yip Man, so
Yeah, Ip Man is really good, and if we ever cover that, I might have some words to say.
My problem is that you just Enter the Dragon it's Bruce Lee. He is the dragon. Like, if anyone tries to claim that name, like, it's just it's wrong. Like,
Yeah.
you call Enter the Dragon, like, Enter the Dragon, that title is Enter Bruce Lee. Like, that's basically what that title means. It's synonymous with Bruce Lee.
And the
You
movie
can't-
that came out a year before this was Way of the Dragon, also Way of Bruce Lee.
Yeah, so it's
that was
just
more of a-
it's a futile pursuit.
well, Way of the Dragon is kind of more of his pet project, with the philosophical side emphasized a bit more.
I
Yeah.
know, but it's still Way of the Dragon, and he is the dragon.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, that's remake still being batted around. I don't think it's ever going to happen, if you ask me. I mean, maybe, who knows? But that's the end of this film's franchise potential. Yeah, they were going to try to kickstart a franchise with that original in 1973. Bruce Lee unfortunately passed away, and they've been trying to remake it ever since with no success. So thus concludes Noah's miniseries here, the Tournament to the Death miniseries. Moving on, we're going to start a new miniseries here. It's Irina's turn.
Yay.
And this is the most specific miniseries I've ever heard. It is cult classics, but with the additional caveats of it has to feature high school to college aged coming of age kids.
They're coming of age-ish.
And also the films have to have a surreal side to them. So there's maybe a mix of a slight fantasy element there. So we're going to have to come upon a better word that is for more brevity for this
We can just
miniseries.
call it Movies Irina Wants to Watch.
Movies Irina wants to watch.
Yeah.
And-
Fever Dream.
Yeah, Fever Dream is probably good.
Yep. And we are going to kick it off with Jennifer's Body.
Yeah.
Which I'm very excited to get into, a movie that I have not seen.
Phrasing.
So yeah, we've got a list of 4 films so far, and it's we're going to add
And a
to that,
mysterious
make
film.
it build it out a little bit more, but we have a solid 4 so far. And we're going to kick it off with Jennifer's Body. They're not this is the most like jumping to different genres type of miniseries that we've had, and I'm kind of here for it.
So don't expect an exact through line. It's kind of nuanced.
Yeah,
I
there's a
guess.
through line, but it's a thin one. All right. Next week, Jennifer's Body. Goodbye, guys.
My Death a Road Grease Monkey.
My style? You can call it the art of fighting without fighting.